Ladies and gentlemen,
Juicy!
what if I told you that a big reason, or actually, no, I won't even say a big reason, but many minuscule reasons to come bold to a relationship imploding, and with the common statistical trope in which 80% of the divorces are filed by women, in which 90% of them are college educated, right? Would it be a big reason for these divorces or breakups? It's due to a lot of shallow things and a lot of shallow stuff that hasn't even been solved. Or this chose not to be solved or left unsolved. They have been corrected. The details hadn't been handled. All those little things, all the small things that went managed. Would that lead me to say it would be like a huge, big reason for all these relationships really faltering away?
Juicy!
And ladies and gentlemen, this is a socially awkward nerd, Christian Paul speaking. But prior to me answering this question, prior to me actually getting back to this topic, I want to take it back to 10 years ago, in which I was dealing with some heartbreak because, like a woman rejected me based on the chaos that I basically discussed earlier with her situationship. My ad. So, excuse me. When I was around 22 years old,
Juicy!
forgive me, I just had lunch, ladies and gentlemen, if so feel a little bit thirsty. When I was 22 years old, I was discussing with my speech therapist at the time, which was still cool to the day, on the situation they had when it came with Miss Argentina. And shortly after that, she gave me some very sound advice to tell her to leave me alone. But there was this one piece of advice that I never, ever, ever forgot. In which he basically told me that, Christian, you are very, very deep. You are a very deep person. And she tells me that a lot of people that are in my age bracket is extremely shallow. They're very shallow and superficial. And I actually took hold of it. I'm thinking to myself, like, wow, like, how could they really be that deep? And they get really all down to nitty-gritty and small stuff, but they don't even fully understand where they are and all that stuff. But it took me a while to actually process it for a time, until we met again like a couple years later, and I was still having some issues dealing with communication issues and all these things, and then we had like a big get together for lunch, everything up at a local Panera around the time that I live. And she basically also stated that a lot of people in general are really shallow and superficial down to the T. A lot of people in general are very materialistic. And she gave me some cues on actually how to handle some things and how to navigate the world of the social realm. Even though you may do well academically, you may do well financially in some cases, you could be doing well up at the job, basically you could be doing well up in sports. But if you do not navigate the social properly with decorum, if you do not master the social game that's really down packed, you will not last up in life. You will not move forward up in life. And the opportunities that you may have gone to literally try to move forward to get the bag will more than likely dwindle. And then Lily hit me with a ton of bricks. So she actually gave me a book as a present to basically read about how people mainly operated. And it's basically a book that's titled Socially Curious and Curiously Social. In which they actually navigated, basically give you like some very unwritten social rules on how any autistic person or any person with a learning disability like myself who's dealing with an autism spectrum disorder Basically giving like some basic rules on how to navigate the social realm when you're dealing with neurotypicals, people that function normally, whatever they call it. That's how they basically label them. Neurotypicals and how they actually basically handle their cues, how to actually read those cues and how to pick up on them. How to pick up on signs of interest, how to pick up on certain leads, how to pick up on certain signs of chaos, these types of things. And I've never really forgotten that book really down to the T, which is really like the clear-cut basis of social interaction to master if you're dealing with a learning disability. It's not just people that are actually dealing with learning disabilities. It could be anybody of any age that's actually dealing with any walks of life, as the social world will evolve fast when you literally least expect it, right? Which leads me down to today. What leads me down to modern relationships, in a way.
Juicy.
Yeah, let me get a moment. I'm so thirsty right now.
Juicy.
Which lead me to why social media is mainly buzzing about all these modern relationships and like how men should behave, how women should behave, and literally all these things. As I've stated earlier, you know what I mean? Social world, the professional world, the academic world, even in some cases the finance world, fitness world, all these things are clear-cut independent of one another. Even though they could be somewhat intertwined in some cases, but they're not always intertwined with all the time. As I said before, you can have all this money, you can have like a bag of wealth, but if your social game ain't really down pat, if you're not really in depth, you're not able to actually fully tell stories of your life and what really goes on to actually keep the story involved with your significant other, your relationship more than likely will not last. Now, on the flip side, you can be extremely social and you can actually be impactful and actually telling a woman's stories and all these other things. You can tell all these other things when it comes to storytelling and all the above, but if you're not able to actually handle like responsibilities when it comes with work, when it comes to other jobs, that part could be at risk unless you out here literally trying to kiss ass to a woman that's actually financing everything for you. That's also another factor in this as well. And then you have the situation where you may have like the decent game, you may have like a little bit of social currency in there and there, and you got the money that's there, but if you don't have like any of the decent smarts, there's a chance that she may not even be with you also. You know what I mean? And now on the flip side, when it comes to the lady side of the equation, you know what I mean? When a lot of women, I see like a lot of women actually have this ordeals actually came by, because we see like a lot of men that get shallow, superficial based on some of the stuff that they pick when it comes to women, especially when they have to deal with like certain, like women of certain ages, women of certain niches, they gotta be cooking and cleaning, doing the whole passport bros thing or whatever it may be, however it may act. And it could be like an acting thing, however it may be. But on the woman's side, when you factor in the woman's side and how they actually model and how they try to quickly friend zone men when it comes to dating, when actually trying to find a potential partner. I looked at a video recently and they have some of the stuff they have like some of the shallowest shit known to man. Just because they have like certain icks or certain feels, or that person may be boring, which although it's their right, it basically shows a reflection on who that woman is and what their mindset is, and how materialistic and how shallow and how superficial that they truly are, which can be a big factor as to why you see the divorce rate mainly being high, why you see like a lot of relationships fail, why you see a lot of modern relationships fail. You see a lack of accountability basically on all sides, a lack of reflection on what, like how they can actually try to improve themselves and literally try to better their life, and literally try to better themselves up in life. How they can actually try to heal themselves, they can actually more so kick ass a little further down the line and actually try to improve and actually try and help their family, help their close friends have the most quality relationships that they can basically have these things involved so that they can have a fruitful and fulfilling life.
Everywhere a woman goes, 85, maybe 90% of men are uninteresting to them. They're repulsive, they're disgusting, they're not attractive, they're short, they're bald, they're old. But this is how women work. This is the problem that you're gonna have. Most men are invisible to women.
Want someone to be obsessed with you. If you are not already in a relationship with someone, don't show them how upset you are. Just show disinterest. If they're not texting you as much as you want them to, don't give them a whole long paragraph. Just distance yourself. Just focus on something and someone else. If they're doing something that would bother you for your boyfriend to be doing, but they're not your boyfriend yet, you can't react to them as if they are. You just gotta hold off, and also just realize if that's the way that they're treating you, that's how they feel about you, and that's the type of person that they are. And that might sound a little toxic, but it's also toxic to let your emotions overwhelm you so much that you absolutely need to tell this person what you're thinking. Someone who is emotionally balanced won't care enough. If a guy doesn't text you back soon enough, you're gonna think whatever with this guy and move on to whatever else you're doing with your life. So don't think about it as I have to be honest, I have to say what's on my mind, that's the right thing to do. It's not. The right thing to do is just feel better and not care about this guy anymore.
Yes, and you're communicating that you're not coming from abundance and you're coming from this situation where you need this to work so bad for you to be happy.
And now that I got my drink out the way, you see all the nonsense that you hear from a lot of these content creators, okay? That give out a lot of this advice that they were saying like, all women are trash, hot girls are trash, men ain't shit, you know, hot girls are useless, you know, they only good when they're actually cooking for you. They out here when they are dealing with sex on command, when they out here fucking swabbing, sucking and swabbing, all that other shit. You know, when you're dealing with this type of ordeal that actually come by around you, you deal with that stuff that mainly come by, thinking that, you know, if you don't make 100 grand a year, if you don't actually get up into the top 18, top 20% of earners up in the United States of America, you are an automatic loser just because you hadn't really fully had anything advanced literally up in life. Even if I were to try to disclose my wealth and how much stuff I earn and like what I mainly do for a living, the other half of the coin, the other side of the coin is that they don't see is you can make yourself a bigger target towards other wolves that actually desperately looking to try to get a quick buck, or you may be a big target towards extremely jealous-minded individuals. And that's the other part that they don't see. I never fully discuss when I actually am dating with somebody, when I actually try to get to know somebody, me personally, I never, ever involve myself. I never, ever tell how much money I'm making. I don't tell like what type of, you know, high-level position I have and all this other stuff, all this shallow materialistic nonsense, because I don't really know what the woman's mindset is. I don't know if she's a gold digger or not. I don't know like where her head is mainly at when it comes to certain things, or does she deeply want to actually get to know me, or does she want to try to use me up just to actually try to get a bag? You know what I'm saying? And that's what can make you vulnerable behind the scenes. That's the type of stuff that can get you literally all screwed up in the head. And there are some other angles where you may see other content creators that may promote, free agent lifestyle. You know what I mean? All women are literally up to try and get you for your bag. Because you didn't comment on what they say do. And I do agree with it to a point. You need to have a backbone with certain folks, because you may be dealing with women that are actually extremely immature, not fully prepared up to speed when it comes to certain things as well. You're dealing with these types of aspects when it comes to this. But when they always promote like all doom and gloom, if you don't stand by this one ideology, even though there's like a couple of actual statistical caveats that actually debunk these types of ideologies, they'll still continue to actually push that narrative, just to actually prove this shit, fuel their guns, just to try and make sure their coach stays alive, as well as making sure they have their mouths fed to sad folks that actually stay still with their coat, and they have their narrative still being pushed, whether it's actually true or actually false.
But in real life, short men have as many partners as tall men.
Right. So this is a perfect example of how women are not telling the truth when it comes to their dating.
So none of the studies I mentioned are about what women say they prefer. I'm talking about when they're asked in these wide studies, how many sexual partners have you had in the last
thing? It goes about being honest. It goes about being honesty. even if
Okay,
it's
so
subconscious.
if you're saying
Isn't that you assuming though?
In
people
society,
who've had since the
based on
1970s,
biology.
they're going to discredit both what men say and what women say when it comes to body count and
No,
all
because
of
men and women are different. Men and
Wait,
women are
wait,
different.
what
Men
so
generally
you're
don't have an
saying
incentive
what
to
men
lie.
say too? I don't even get this.
No,
Okay,
because
so
men don't have that same
you're saying
incentive
that
to be
women are
dishonest.
lying about whenever they're asked in these research surveys, they're lying about how many sexual
Not what I'm
partners
saying.
they
So this is
when
a
you
perfect
Juicy!
example of women are not telling the truth.
had in the last year, or that a lot of them are lying to the point where we can't trust this data, but we can trust your
I'm saying
anecdote.
it's a possibility.
And I have like a big issue with that. I have a big issue with other female content creators that are actually trying to teach women how to be extremely hypergamous based on like what a man has, rather than actually focus on like what the man's character really is about. I have like a huge, big issue.
Now, if you've been following me in my channel, you know that Black women have a unique set of relationship challenges that make things a little bit harder to do compared to other races of women in our country. If every Black man married a Black woman, 2 million Black women would still not have a man. There's a huge shortage, and that creates an imbalance in terms of dynamics in the power of the relationship and leverage and your ability to negotiate. If you go to the negotiating table with nothing to leverage, if you have nothing to bargain for, then you have no ability to make any demands. So ladies, I want to first say that it is my credo that Black women should date all men. That includes Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Middle Eastern, Eskimo, whatever.
What leads to all the crazy nonsense is crazy infighting, crazy unnecessary beefing, crazy calamity, and crazy chaos that stems from failures, that stems from trauma based on that person's life. And their unwillingness to heal themselves, and their unwillingness to literally mature and admit faults, and literally admit to making their mistakes, and like what they're gonna do to literally try to correct it down the line. Which is why they're up in shitty positions right now, talking to you up in the couch for 3-4 hours on end every single day, talking about all their families, all the time they spouses. Oh, women ain't shit. Oh, men ain't shit. Oh, men got these other issues. Men are actually just used up for like the guys and everything. Hot girls are useless for like extra hot dicking and everything. No, men can cheat and legally sleep with other women. Women cannot. You know, they can anytime you use like Instagram of any form that's cheating. All this delusional shit, man. And then you got like women coming out saying, "Oh, I don't need a man. Go get the bag." You know, your career comes first. All the barking and all the craziness that mainly come on. And all the small details that a lot of people forget to actually deal with, and all the shallowness that people have up in their hearts, are many of the biggest reasons why relationships fail and why marriages falter when it comes to that ultimate level. And I say this, marriage is not for everybody. Relationships are clearly not for everybody. You know what I mean? If you want to try and live single, if you want to try and be asexual and everything, you know, live your life, that's your right. I'm not here to tell you what you should do. I'm not here to tell you how you should lead and how you should have your relationship to go. But I'm actually trying to dig into like a much deeper perspective on why these statistics, you know, the final results, if you will, are basically what they are. And it's just that a lot of people in general, just like I had with a statement that's relevant to my life, are extremely shallow to the T. They're extremely superficial. They are extremely materialistic when it comes to chasing materialistic things, right? Actually trying to look for your inner, actually trying to focus on what you have inside and what you got deep down in your core, what makes you happy, what keeps you actually truly going. You know what I mean? They fail to actually get themselves healed. They fail to actually go to mental health counseling and try and overcome the emotional and psychological ills as to why they are the hurt people that they are today. And I'm not saying don't have any standards. I'm not saying don't have any other, you know, boundaries or anything like that. I'm not saying these things. Like, please don't get me wrong. You should enact boundaries whenever you actually try and deal with relationships in that matter. If you want to actually try and commit with somebody in the long term. You know, for instance, right? You know, it's real hard to actually try to build a relationship and actually try to maintain one it gets even harder when you're actually dealing when, you know, that person has children from a previous relationship. Now, it's different if you actually build children of your own and you actually set up a family together. Now, at least you actually learn how to build some. But even that is a different dynamic in itself, you know. You gotta be dealing with mood swings from a woman. You gotta be dealing with chemical and hormonal changes from a woman when it comes to certain looks and how that may impact the partner. These type of things they can mainly factor out. And why you're dealing with certain changes that neither of us are actually really very prepared for would be unpredictable, and how to actually handle that type of turmoil based on the mindset where they're going. Now, if I witnessed that, I've heard about that when it comes to my cousin's side of the story, which led to some infidelity and them breaking apart, which is extremely unfortunate. But the other factors that actually come about in it is, you know, you have all these certain boundaries. Like if you allow somebody to actually try to run up over you, whether it's like a man or a woman, and you don't even state those boundaries from the beginning, if you only have the strong courage to literally walk away, you know, you will be dealing with the self-sabotage in your relationship literally years from now. And that is definitely guaranteed. Now, if you're dating somebody that has dealt with some deep traumas and has like some very deep stories that's up in their life, you know what I mean? They may have gone through like extremely deep traumas, right? That they fully yet to solve, thinking that, okay, if I actually just stay away from the whole family, I'm still good. But they don't really properly actually get the proper mechanisms to really properly heal and to try to have the healthy lifestyle when it comes with minimal calamity, minimal chaos, all these other things, you know. If I'm dealing with somebody, if I'm looking to date somebody, if I go through a couple of dates with that person, if I go through a couple of dates with that woman, you know, I know she has her own ills, she may have her own circumstances. We'll deal with the caveats as time goes along, and we'll definitely take it slow. But certain caveats down the line, right? It can vary from woman to woman. You know, it could definitely vary based on the moment, based on what the woman mainly went through. Basically, if they went through psychological trauma or physical trauma, however it may be. But it is not my job to save that person at all. It is not my job to save that person whatsoever. That's that person's responsibility on how she's going to be able to figure out that situation, on see how she's going to be able to literally get those proper channels to actually fully get herself healed. You know, has she seen a psychiatrist actually trying to like vent everything to what's really going on, and has she actually found the channels and actually found all these other mechanisms to actually fully appropriate and actually trying to further improve her life and trying to get herself out of that calamity situation, that chaotic situation that they place. Now, if that person, or if that woman, basically in my case, chooses not to get out of that chaotic or calamity situation, they want to actually just live and actually stay right where they are and all these things. For me, as difficult as it is, I would have no other choice but to leave you alone. I would have no other choice but to let you be. I would have no other choice but to move on from you. I would have no other choice but to move on from that woman. Because at the end of the day, that calamity, what it shows, based on what she's done in action, is that she basically actually enjoys that type of calamity and that type of stuff that she can literally try to spread towards her offspring. And if they choose to have it, they'll be able to enable that chaos, and they'll be able to actually deal with that type of normalcy within them that can literally derail them literally down the line, or it can maybe derail a potential partner that they may be with down the line. And again, to each his own, you know, which I fully understand, and I'm not here to say or dictate what should be done and all this other stuff that came about. There's someone for somebody based on that certain mindset. But unfortunately, we're dealing with like a lot of unhealed people, and we are dealing with like a lot of socially awkward people. Some way worse off than me, some maybe a little bit close to worse as me, you know what I mean, that are a bit awkward. They're actually just going through, I won't even say going through the motions, they're going through trial and error when it comes with modern relationships. And I can understand why some folks want to deal with like the passport dating lifestyle, passport bros, however it may be. I understand why. I understand why folks want to actually try and get someone overseas that's actually more traditional, like much more stable. I can fully understand that reason why. I mean, because you're gonna be dealing with like a lot of chaotic, unhealed people. You know, they hadn't really fully solved their traumas, and everyone has their own form of trauma one way or another. It's just a matter of how you actually handle these traumas and how you actually appropriately channel these problems and how they actually overcome them properly. You know, so you don't have to get deeply wrecked literally down the line. That's really the most important thing that, you know, we have to mainly focus on and we have to mainly deal with. All right, that's really the most important stuff. And it's not your job to play superhero and actually play Captain Save a Ho, and actually try to actually save, you know, like that woman's ordeals and save that woman's traumas, because every woman got their little dark past that they'll tell you with. But the question is, how deeply in love, how deeply do they like you? You know, how deeply are they willing to commit to you based on, you know, their situations? How willing are they to try to improve their own life and to literally try and heal as much of their traumas as possible just to try to get with you? It's not even all the shallow stuff saying you gotta have the requirements of actually being a wife. It's more so about the deep stuff. It's more about the internal healing that they mainly have, which is really the most important if they actually want to actually get with like a man or whatever it may be. You want to make sure that they are mostly healed. You want to make sure that they are psychologically healed, you know, in order for you to actually be a serious couple, in order for you to literally build a very strong foundation together in the hopes that it can last for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40 years. On and on and on. You know what I mean? Till death do one of y'all parts. And yes, I do agree. I truly agree that, you know, she's not yours. It's just your turn. Now, the question is that I want to ask when it comes to that statement is, how long will your turn last? Can your turn last for a season? Or can your turn last for an eternity? And I'm going to leave it at that, ladies and gentlemen. Chris and Paul from the Nerd Chronicles is signing out. Y'all think about what I just said. Y'all think about all this other craziness on like why a lot of these relationships mainly fail. You know, like how hard relationships are to maintain, and if you actually choose to actually dig yourself up in one, you know, you gotta be dealing with the challenges. You gotta be dealing with the other partner's issues as well that come along with it. And if they are like single parents or anything like that, you gotta be dealing with their single burdens as well. Which is why I understand why a lot of dudes do not want to involve any single mother or even take any single mother seriously when it comes to having serious relationships or even like serious dating, other than just being friends with benefits. I fully understand that ordeal, and I don't fault them because it's a huge risk to taking yourself. With that, once again, Chris and Paul from Nerd Chronicles is signing out. Deuces.
They're stupid. They don't understand when they're getting too comfortable. Women ask me all the time, how do I get my man to treat me the way he did in the beginning of our relationship? Forget him. Forget that situation and focus on yourself and how you used to feel and who you used to be before him. Who were you when he wanted you? Maybe you lost a little bit of that along the way because he made you feel unwanted. So you forgot how confident that you used to be. But after all of that, if you really feel like you're in that place and he's still not treating you the way that you want to be treated, then tell him. Not in a needy way, but in a way that says, I know who I am. I know what I deserve. You are not making me feel desired and you're getting too comfortable.